Hello, everybody. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy fall. Finally really feels like fall.
And Merry Christmas. I'm putting up my tree this weekend, so.
Oh, I should have known, Commissioner.
I'm shocked it didn't get put up like at 12:01 a.m. after the meeting.
I know it should have been. I really have slacked off. I should have had it done already.
Just give it another minute or so for people to get in and get sorted. Must be Friday because everyone's trickling in.
I had in my mind that it was at 3 o'clock, so I was very efficient and set an alarm for 2:45. Then realized.
I'm glad it all worked out. All right, well, the trickle has slowed a little bit. Oh, so I think we can get started. Um, Happy budget day. State Department friends, I was hoping maybe we would have a budget out and we would get to like hear some hot off the news press today, but I won't ask you to do that yet, quite yet. All right, so thanks everyone for being here for our Tackling Barriers group. Won't hold things up too much. I was just looking for Logan, should we look for you for the update on 1038 if there's anything?
Sure, I'm happy to report. So we submitted our quarterly updates in October, so I'll kind of go through some of those updates. I do have additions since we do capture data monthly. I can give you the most recent update as of last week. So with our wait lists, we are tracking that for the WIG. That's not specific to 1038, but I do think it impacts projects related to 1038. The document that I sent over to you all related to those PRTF QRTP waitlists mentioned increase back in August, which we did see. So we saw a pretty stark increase to our QRTP waitlists in August, up to 36 children and youth on those waitlists. And PRTF declined from 74 to 50 as of the end of October. So really this was yesterday that I was writing all this data. Our QRTP waitlists have decreased more. So we have 30 children and youth on those waitlists, and we have decreased the PRTF waitlist as well to 42. And I think questions that have come so far are, well, why? How is that happening? One new QRTP opened in August, ROP Morrison. They have a capacity of 10. And so they're starting to expand the number of youth that they're serving. And we do have our performance management outcomes teams, plural. We have, or soon to be 3 of them, who are out with our provider communities assessing length of stay, ensuring appropriate levels of treatment for youth who are currently admitted to QRTPs and PRTFs, and assisting those levels of care with treatment and their discharge planning and aftercare services. So we're starting to see some movement there, which is positive, although, yes, still complicated that we have a squeeze on those 2 license types and levels of care. In terms of all of the PMO's efforts, which are a part of 1038. So the Performance Management Outcomes team has created and really implemented a good chunk of what they call the first phase of their strategic plan, which is collaborating with all of our QRTP and PRTF providers. This fiscal year, they've already gone to and spent multiple days, if not a full week, with every single QRTP in the state. They're on round 2 of all of their QRTP visits. And they're really diving into 2 of our 4 PRTFs right now. And so we're seeing some shifts in practice in a lot of those license types, again, which I think is trickling down in those wait lists decreasing. In terms of our Provider Training Academy updates, that's also happening through the PMO team. We are internally piloting those 40 hours or those modules right now. And they're anticipating finishing their recording. They said end of October, beginning of November. So hoping the next few weeks that we'll finish those last few recordings of the last portion of the training. And the plan is to pilot it with half of the QRTP and PRTF staff, which is about 800 people. So we'll start that pilot with those 800 or so folks in January. Clinical care team wise, I checked in with Dr. Monahan a couple weeks ago. She's still working through the HR processes to get those positions paneled and posted so that she can hire for her team. She's building out what the components of that team will look like and what their role might be. And so she said she would update me when she had more information, but that's what I have there. In terms of specialized foster care, in the update I sent you all, there had been a slight increase in therapeutic and treatment foster home beds. I'm going to grab my most recent data from yesterday. As of yesterday, we have 212 therapeutic beds across the continuum. We've grown the treatment capacity, so we now have 18 treatment beds. Safi increased by 1, Envoy increased by 1, and Maple Star, actually, which is now Clarevita, now has a treatment bed. So the capacity there is growing, and our professional beds are still at 3. So some increase there. I did have a meeting with the permanency team at the state to talk about the Raise a Child pilot, which they had, I think Pueblo, El Paso, and then 2 CPAs had engaged in. We're trying to identify more funding for continuation of that pilot to expand more specialized foster care recruitment. In terms of our contracts measure and increasing those QRTP contracts.
Logan, can I
Yes.
ask a question about the specialized foster care numbers? So since the start of the WIG then, because you guys have the governor's WIG says that specialized foster care beds will be expanded by an additional 40 beds by June 2025. So for treatment, I just want to make sure I got that right. If treatment foster care is now at 18, those have expanded by 4 beds since the start of the WIG. Okay, yes. And then therapeutic has increased from 209, but I heard you say 212 instead of 214, which was in the written update.
Correct.
Did you lose a couple?
We did. We lost 2 beds through Safi between August and September. So we're at net increase of 3 at this point.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Perfect.
Sorry,
and
I
then
should be pausing. Any other questions?
Oh.
Go ahead, Heather.
I just wanted to flag for tackling barriers that we are hoping to work with Logan to do a presentation, maybe with tackling barriers at the December 6th meeting, our next one, regarding specialized foster care. There is a informal group of county staff and some CPAs that has been meeting over the last 9 months or so regarding specialized foster care and just trying to figure out, like, since it's such a new level of care, like, how are counties doing it? What are the challenges folks are running into? And then recently, some counties and CPAs that are interested in creating those levels of care but haven't been able to have joined. So we've done a lot of information gathering. We did a CHSDA survey to counties and CPAs. CHAMPS Colorado is about to send out a survey to the actual families that provide treatment and therapeutic and professional foster care. So we'll also have that information by next month to share with you all. And then Division of Child Welfare staff at CDHS have also provided us some more data that's very hard to sift through about kids that have accessed specialized foster care, where they were before, where they went immediately after, and just like length of stay, and some additional data points, but it's hard to package up. So we're going to do our best and also try to share that with Tackling Barriers next month. Sorry, Logan, I wanted to give you a longer pause, so I just took that opportunity.
All good. Thanks, Heather. I think I only have 2 other updates for you all related to 1038. Our contracts administration team through the provider services unit put the QRTP contracted bed request, RFP, request for proposal, into procurement, I think 2 weeks ago or so. So they're soliciting interest for the expansion and of those QRTP beds among our provider community right now. And I'm not sure when that closes, but I can reach out to Sean to see. Our universal placement referral form pilot ends in a month from today, on December 1st. We have a check-in meeting with the pilot counties and RAIs and providers, I believe December 3rd. And at that point, we are sending them a survey to gather general feedback, thoughts, recommendations, next steps. We are hoping to gather thoughts from all of those pilot folks in the meeting in December, and then bring a formal recommendation from that group to SubPAC in January. And we'll kind of go from there based on what our pilot folks think of the use of that form, its effectiveness, how we implement it, if we implement it, and all the details that I think we all have had from the beginning. So curious to see where that group lands in about a month. And I think you all know this, but provider denials, which are a part of 1038, are being tracked through that universal placement referral form right now. And so we're trying to explore, if the pilot group comes back and says this is not viable for X amount of reasons, we CDHS are still responsible for determining how we're going to collect those denial reasons, and are in conversations with our trails staff right now to figure out, can we build this capacity into trails if this pilot doesn't move forward? So trying to figure out a plan B if our universal placement referral form doesn't end up moving forward. I believe those are the updates I have right now, unless folks have questions.
Jamie.
Hi, Logan. On the denials, I get a little confused because I think that, so for 1038, there's a requirement to track the denials, and there's a report due to the legislature in 2025, right? And that's the denials you're talking about, but just through the pilot counties?
Right now, we've only built capacity through that form with the pilot counties and the pilot providers and the RAIs. We have not developed something holistically yet.
So is it the pilot counties that are going to be in the report that you're submitting to the legislature?
Correct.
Was 1038, did it say it was just pilot counties, or did it say we needed to track all denials?
I believe it said all denials. So if you all have miracle ideas of how we can do that, I'm open to those suggestions. And this is how we had started.
I don't have miracle ideas. I just want to make sure that we're getting the legislature what they need. So that report is due the end of 2025? No, it's due
January.
It's due January.
That's what I'm seeing, but my memory might be fuzzy. I think that the language was written for flexibility, knowing how hard this collection was going to be on this item. So I feel like it would be a question for CDHS. It does what they have available through the pilot satisfy the legislative need, or what does that look like, just to get clarity?
Yeah. And then there, oh, sorry,
Can I
Ellen.
ask a follow-up? Sorry, Jamie, that's a great
No,
question.
that's okay.
There's the part that you're reporting, Logan, your agency, and then I think there's a part in 1038 that residential providers are also reporting. Becky, maybe that's a question for you. Have you been engaged in conversation with the state about what that report will look like in January?
No, I haven't, but I would love to be.
Logan, do you know who's on point for that? It's, I can drop the language in the chat.
That'd be helpful. I think the provider denial reasons from the residential providers are a part of this pilot as well. And so my hope was to capture everything within the pilot group, from the residential providers, from the counties, and try to streamline that reporting. But I probably will need to do some follow-up in terms of if the pilot group constitutes enough for this requirement. And Dennis Desperos is technically our point on 1038. I just happen to do all of the report outs for all the folks. So I can follow up with him as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think marrying that data and whatever comes with the January report with the 1269 data that hospitals and counties are currently reporting will help us heading into the legislative session and moving forward just on kind of a better data snapshot around the challenges that many of us probably already know, but it helps give some credence to our own individual data when we're talking with lawmakers and other decision makers. So really appreciate your work, Logan.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up. Jamie, did you have another question? Oh, your hand went down.
Well, I guess my follow-up to your follow-up, Ellen. Heather, I hear you talking, is what Ellen's talking about what you're talking about as far as the providers reporting back? That requirement ends, but I think there's a desire to continue that ongoing. And so are there plans put in place to continue that outside of what is statutorily required?
That would be a question for the BHA.
Oh, Matt, yay.
I was letting Logan take all the questions today. So did you want to, I'm sorry, JB, I was actually looking at something else until my turn came up on the agenda, but if you want to repeat it, I can probably answer for you right now. What was the question? Do we want to continue 1269 data collection? Yes, we have a meeting and I can provide an update, but we have a meeting November 14th. I can post a link in which we'll have hopefully all of the data required to be collected and then work with that group and to see what the appetite is going forward. Like we would like that. We find value in that, but we also don't have any teeth to make hospitals or make folks report that. We could continue to report that, but I think we value that data.
We also so the child welfare data will always continue to be collected because it's put into trails. And then, as you guys know, just for the county office and hotel overnight stays, we reconcile that data with state staff with what's in trails, and CHSDA will continue to do our data collection on county office hotels, hospital stays, past medical necessity, and detention. But just because of my new role, Emily, our CHSDA coordinator, has taken over that data collection, and she is currently collecting all of the high acuity data from counties for July, August, and September. She has a lot of responses already, but we should be able to package that up and share it with Katie so she can send it out to this group maybe within the next week. But just so folks know too, the BHA put the 1269 data on the Performance Hub as under the children and youth category. But we had this conversation on the HRCC call last Friday that that data just got posted to that performance hub, and then the data collection requirement is ending, and we would like to see that data continue too. So just wanting to get clarity on that and make sure we have a good sense of what that will look like going forward.
So, Matt, just to clarify, if folks are interested in the 1269 data and seeing that move forward, they should come to the meeting on the 14th.
Yes, that would be
Okay.
helpful, and I think I can throw it in here.
Matt, will BHA be interested in continuing the current data variables that are reported? I know from, even though we ran the bill, we've had a lot of feedback internally about other data variables that would be helpful. Like we get questions around gender, age of the kids that are having challenges, you know, really finite information. So we'd be curious in exploring. I don't know what our hospital partners would think about changing data variables, or you all either, but would want to put that on the table, is that there might be some additional or different types of data that helps paint a different picture that would be more constructive.
Yeah,
I really cannot speak for what the counties report and don't want to suggest that, but on the hospital side.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for our data team. It is not that we do not want data, so let me be really clear. But I do know changing that form last time was an absolute nightmare, right? And even getting the questions corrected, what wasn't great. So it took a long time, and it was cumbersome, and folks had already had a previous form. So Ellen, everything you're saying, I'm in agreement with, right? Like I want whatever we collect to be useful, not just for us, but for the public. And again, the data is out. We do not plan on retracting that from Performance Hub. Like that data is out, and what we have there is out. And if we want something different or something more, probably like that's fine. And how are we going to get it? What's that workload look like for hospitals, right? For those types, is there an internal cost for us to change a form or something? So I don't want to speak to our data team to do that, but that's the conversation. That's the place to have that. And yes, welcome anybody who wants to attend.
Awesome. I can include
yeah.
those meeting details too. When I kind of send out the recording and the notes.
Sure. It's
next
also
week.
on. I can just jump ahead here too. If that works for you, Katie, to jump ahead to the agenda for me.
Sure.
Cool. So yes, Heather, I was getting there. Yeah, no, we're good. We're right on track where we need to be. That's the first thing on the written update too. And I do have to jump for just a little bit for something else. So I'm glad I get a chance to chat here, and I'll be back. 1038, this is done, as in the contracting is done. It should be updated. So I believe all of the contracts have been up. They actually were updated, signed. They just needed, I think, 30 days to be fully implemented before Stephen Peng left. So all of that should be done. Period. Hard stop. So that piece is done. We do have another piece on 1038. Obviously, we're doing rulemaking for 1038 for system of care specifically. There's some other sections of rule. We're sharing them all at the same time. That is also on this website. So I posted a website. This used to be just for the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Implementation Plan website. If you have that pinged, it's the same website. We realized we needed to have a kind of a landing page, a central landing page, to get not just what BHA is doing around children and youth behavioral health, but also what HCPF is doing and what our folks at CDHS are doing. So we have a shared calendar that you'll see on here with other events. Rule writing is on there. That's one of them. But all of the public facing events calendars for those three agencies are on one website now. So feel free to go there. We are continuing to build this out as a landing page for youth for high acuity youth needs and all the things that are happening. So just know more to come. We were hoping to have more actually out before this meeting, and the content is going through executive review and pieces like that to make sure it's exactly what we want out there. But ping this webpage and there's more to come. The kids plan is still on here. So that we didn't take that away, but we're bringing in many of the other agencies. So, and the rule, like I said, the rule piece is out. We have several sections or several live events in public. We have at least one other virtual event. We will be wrapping up stakeholdering by the end of November. We actually added an additional month. Let's say we were going to end it in October, but continued it through November. 1269, come to the next meeting. I don't think we've hammered that enough, but please come. We're hoping to continue those meetings too. I mean, that's the idea. If it's useful and folks find that information valuable and hospitals continue to want to provide it, yes, we'll continue to hold those meetings. We did move them, I believe, from monthly to quarterly, so they're currently set up as quarterly. Kids plan in general, when I wrote the update, we were 9 months into year one. We are now.
Hey,
day
hey,
one.
Matt,
Yes.
sorry, the host can't raise their hand. It's really silly.
Oh,
Are you able to just tell us like what types of things you are waiting to incorporate onto that website, and just like what we should kind of look forward or keep an eye
Yeah,
out for?
the final product and some of the direction and some that we've been getting, and the intent is to be a one-stop landing page, at least for these 3 agencies, for high acuity behavioral health activities, things for the public or legislators to know about, that they know what's going on. Trying to instead of having to go to 3 separate websites, since we're all doing work around high acuity, can we begin to show that in a single place? So that's the intent. The high level intent, and then what that means in the details. You can obviously, there's a lot of pieces there to break down. So we'll be doing that. Hopefully that helps, Katie. I know it's just high level, but that's what we want to have there. All right, kids plan. We are 11 months. Oh, Jamie, yes.
Maybe I should wait till the end of your update.
No, just keep jumping in, Jamie.
Okay,
You're fine.
I find myself lacking the details around some of the things that you're talking about.
Okay.
So I wonder if we could get a little more specific on some of these areas. Would it be helpful if I put some questions in the chat to drill down to some of that specificity? I'm getting asked a lot of questions about where the BHA is at with the Children and Youth Implementation Plan specifically, but also 1038.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, they're talking, but I don't really know what they're saying. So would that be okay if I just start?
Oh, if you
peppering
send me questions, yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
But can we address some of them today? Would that be okay?
If I know the answers, we surely can.
All right, I'll start. You finish your update. I'll start putting stuff in the chat.
Perfect. So yeah, we are 11 months into the kids plan. It's a 5-year plan, obviously. We had, I don't know where we are today. When I wrote the overview or the summary, we had 10 of 19 year one goals completed, and that's across 13 different state departments. Some of those goals really are, we wanted to support ACC 3.0 and moving that forward in ways BHA can. And we wanted to help lift off BOSSOs and make sure we're there, right? And we're contracting with our BOSSOs now. We have the awards done. So those pieces are all moving forward. So those are some big goals. There are also some other ones, and this is the first one you pointed out, Jamie, is a great one. Children's mobile crisis response as a Medicaid benefit. I think Robert can speak to a lot of that one. But yes, we'll be moving that. That does seem to be like a Medicaid benefit. And how do we build that out? And what does that look like? But that was one by itself, was just, could it be a Medicaid benefit? And how do we build that out for Colorado? That was one of the agenda, action items for this year. So yes, it can be. And what else could it look like? Let's see.
Okay, sorry.
No,
Sorry. Yeah. So you're saying, yes, it can be a
Yep.
Medicaid benefit.
Yep.
And the next part of that is it currently available? And will there be regular reports regarding the utilization of this benefit?
Yeah.
That's the specific question.
Yeah. I'm going to end up turning some of that over to Robert, just the Medicaid pieces and where it's like that type of thing. Now, is it available? Yes. Right. CRT is available in 21 counties right now. fully paid for. Like it is available. So for those 21 counties, it's funded, it's available, they can access it. I don't know what kind of reporting. I'd have to pull into our experts over there at the adult and crisis side and talk to them to see what reporting they are doing. But yes, so that piece is there. And I'll go back to the questions in a second. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, we have a year one update. So anybody on the steering committee for the kids plan that meets monthly just got an email from me today on our draft language for a progress report showing all of the activities we completed in year one, the change to an alignment along a continuum of care to really match the system of the Medicaid system of care we're building out. Just realigning those action items, keeping the same action items we've had before. We actually added, I think, 30 action items because we had brought on 4 additional state departments to the plan from its inception. When we started, it was 9. So now we have 13. Yes, Katie? I see.
The steering committee,
Yeah.
trying to keep track of all these in my brain. Is that one just the state agencies on that steering committee?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, so I'm assuming that's a closed group or okay.
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
Okay. So that report, I'm assuming, is something that will just get released.
Yeah,
Publicly at some
I
point.
want them to now. I want them to look at it first before we put it out for public feedback. Kelly
Sure.
Cossey and I will be going to public meetings, BHAC, BPAC, a few other. We will be sharing it publicly to get feedback. But I want to make darn sure that the people who are responsible for doing this thing, right, are on the same page before we do that. So that just went out today. I asked for, I think, a 2-week turnaround from them. Just to kind of give you all timelines, right? I really want to have something public and out by the end of 24. We're gonna be close.
Okay.
It may be January, but yes, we'll have opportunity for public to provide feedback.
Yeah, if you could share those opportunities once
Oh,
you
yeah.
have them, and I can get it out to
Oh,
this
I'll
group, and of
bring
course
it
the-
here. I was
yeah.
actually thinking that December. Hopefully, my ducks are in a row enough. We can bring it here in December. So
Okay, amazing.
yeah.
And then,
Mm.
sorry, I know I jumped ahead of you, Jamie. Are you able to share which of the 9 goals are for year one are still in progress?
Yeah, I don't have them with me, but yes, yes, I do. I can get that.
Surprised you don't know them like the back of your hand, Matt.
I know.
Jamie, you want to jump
Yeah.
in?
Yeah.
So, okay, you speak very quickly, Matt. So
Oh,
I'm trying to keep up. Okay, so the Children and Youth Implementation Plan originally had about 95-ish items on it.
Yeah.
I think I heard you say you've added 30.
Right now.
Can we get that complete list?
Yep.
Okay, that's question number 1. Question 2, you have a steering committee of 13 state agencies that are
Yep.
getting together and working on the Children and Youth Implementation Plan of now 125 items. And then you're going to get the report to Katie on which items have been worked on, completed, addressed, the progress. That's what you're getting to Katie by December?
So we have a general progress report, and again, we don't break it down by all. Yeah, it's a high level how we have the plan aligned, accomplishments for year one, the legislative report support we received right last year, how we're aligning the plan going forward, and what the intent of that alignment is. Separate document. So pause, full stop. That's the report. All the things we did in year one and how we're moving forward in year 2.
Okay,
Separate
where do
document.
we see the specific items? Because
Yep.
I remember getting that implementation report when we were engaging in Senate Bill 59 discussions. I remember
Mhm.
being at CDHS, this big thing, 95 items. Where can we see item number 1? Here is the update. Item number 2, here's the specific update. Where do we get
Yep.
that
Yep.
information?
So there is one of the original document has all of them linked on the website. They're all, you can get a list of the full 97, right, originally done. I can get a report out and we're gonna hopefully put it on the landing page so it can be done live instead of like once a year or something else where we can do that. But we have a document that we track all of these things and it's available. So yes,
And it will be continually up to date.
we're hoping to do it like at least a monthly, just a monthly update for on our end, so that on the public website, it'll be no more than a month old on the data, right? That's the intent, correct?
Okay, I will look at the website. I'm just trying to stay as up to date and informed as
Yeah.
to all of these items as possible and help others stay informed as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
No,
I,
100%.
Matt, my small piece of feedback will just be when we were talking about the children and youth implementation plan back in the spring amongst the CCI system of care conversations, you were talking about a dashboard. So I think we're just all really eager to see that dashboard.
Yep.
Yeah. Heather Durosco.
I was gonna flag for Matt. I feel like this is one of the items that Megan could highlight on the Wednesday 8 a.m. calls with county directors, just so that it's really getting out to everyone, because the children and youth stuff is just such a high priority for the counties, and I don't think that the broader group is ever getting any of those updates, and that would be a perfect place to get that in an ongoing way if we can't participate in the steering group.
Yeah, no worries. I will pass that along to Megan.
Forgive my ignorance on this, Matt, but are there parts of the implementation plan that are contingent on certain stakeholders or processes that happen that are not state functions? Because I worry a little bit about a steering committee on a statewide plan where we all have roles and responsibilities, and a little bit of like lack of clarity around like what should we be doing as a hospital system or with our primary care providers or with our county partnerships, like what role can we play in helping with the implementation plan?
So all of these tasks, it's state department responsibility, right? So each of them, that they have a role in that. They're responsible for that. Some of those they may need hospital partners, or some of those, right, like I'm just trying to think of some of the other ones, like getting BOSSOs off the ground. Like we needed people to review contracts. We need people to review applicants. We needed there was a lot of stuff. It was not just BHA by any means, but then at the end of the day, BHA was responsible for that, right? So many of these tasks, we have a lot of Colorado Department of Education tasks and CDPHE tasks where, yes, like liaisoning with school districts or those types of things, they'll have to do that to complete that task. But no, ultimately they're responsible for those things. Is that helpful, Ellen?
It is, yeah. And
Okay.
we've said this before, but I'll say it again. If we can be helpful in bringing stakeholders together in partnership with CHSDA, looked at the wrong acronym, or other partners to talk about the implementation plan and to just really feel like we are part of the objectives, because I think we all have a lot of the same objectives and goals. Let us know. We're open to that and support kind of the conversation. There's just so much happening, and making sure we're all aligned and connected and really facilitating strong outcomes. Just open invitation.
Perfect. Turns out in answering all the questions, I lost my update sheet. 1 second. Sorry, too many screens open. Okay, and then two other things. One, I just wanted to highlight the BOSSO contracting has begun the reporting period, and that has been over. So we have Rocky and Signal. We are contracting with those folks right now. And then the last piece is just internal. BHA, all of the children and youth programming has now moved under Kelly Cossey, right? So in the past, we've had pieces in different deputy commissioners had different pieces of children and youth work. And in the BHA realignment, we've put all of the children's and youth programming under one deputy commissioner. So if there's a concern issue, you want someone to talk about it, and we no longer have to go through multiple pieces of leadership. It's all through Kelly. And she was hoping to be here today, but she's with our commissioner doing a different face-to-face event. So, but she will be, as she has the last couple of months, tried to attend these meetings. All right. Jamie, if it's helpful, what I'm hoping, I just texted Katie too. I'm gonna try and get a list of these questions printed to me or emailed to me, and I can address those instead of kind of going through. I'm just trying to read them as I'm trying to answer them, and I think it's more cumbersome than it's worth. But
It's fine. I can email. I have them in a document, so I can just email them to you.
perfect.
We've been collecting them kind of among different
Yeah.
partners.
Great.
Real quick though, on the system of care rules.
Yep.
What is the timeline for starting to work more in depth on what those rules look like?
Yeah.
I know you're waiting for the settlement agreement kind of to flesh out a little bit.
Yeah.
But also just really curious as to what the plan is to put more meat behind the BHA system of care rules. And
Yeah.
I also know that you're working with a consultant from
Attack.
yeah.
Yep.
And so how is that work going? Are you getting additional feedback from that consultant that's going to apply to the rules, and what does that look like?
I think I can say yes to everything you just said. The rule timeline, we'll wrap up stakeholdering in November, first read December, January 2nd read, 30 days. So March for this current rule package, which will be right about enough time to then begin having new rule conversations, right? Because if we're starting in March to get out what we're currently proposing, that creates structure in rule to build out more. We will have the settlement stuff will be moving forward by then already, right? So some of those pieces will be moving forward. We'll have our contracts or our conversations with our national expert with TAC. They're actually going very, very well on how we can, what do we need to build out? How do we pay for that? How does that fit with Medicaid? How do some things are outside of Medicaid? So thinking prevention and some of that recovery pieces that maybe sit outside of that. And a lot of that's what we're talking about when I say continuum of care, slightly different than a system of care. I think a full system of care incorporates everything, right? And that's the direction we'd like to go. But right now, since we do have a lawsuit, and since I want to make sure that we just kind of separate some of that work a little bit. We have taken on the term continuum of care. The system of care works right inside that. It is the same thing. But because it's the BHA, it's broader. It's not just Medicaid kiddos, it's all kiddos. And it sits outside of that as far as some of the prevention pieces. So, but yeah, I think everything you're saying, Jamie, that's yes, we're leaning into that. Our national expert, we've had a contract in place just for a month. So just kind of began that work. So I mean, again, I would project we will have some things to bring to this group or other avenues, whether it's if we need public comment, we can bring it to BHAC and BPAC and those advisory groups. We're unpacked together. I mean, whatever we need to bring it to have the conversations, we're happy to do that, whatever it could look like.
I appreciate that. I guess the reason why I'm kind of pushing for a little more detail to be brought to this meeting is because many of the commissioners on here are also going to be on the leadership team for the 1038 leadership team. And so I think as much educating the BHA can do on the specific details will really help inform the work that happens there. So and
Kelly's there too. So Kelly is on that leadership team.
Sure. Yeah. I know.
Okay.
Yes. But I just really don't want to miss this opportunity while you have commissioners on this call who talk to legislators who, are wondering what's going on. And it's really hard when, it's kind of like, well, we really don't quite know. So as succinctly and as concisely as we can get the information regarding what's going on, I think the better off everybody's communication will be. And I still don't really quite know what's going on, but I'm hoping I will know better once we get some of these questions answered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, did you say you had to leave early? I have a question for you about substance use disorder beds, but I wasn't sure what time you're hopping off or if I should save it for later.
Yeah, I'm coming back at probably 2:30, 2:35. So I just need to jump for about 15 minutes here.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, but I'll be back for sure. All right. Thank you all.
We'll see you soon. Sorry, my screens are so small today. Robert, can we switch over to the settlement agreement? What updates are you able to share with us on that front?
Yeah, there are quite a bit going on, a lot going on. For 1038 specifically, both committees had a sort of a preliminary sort of how we want the committees to go meeting structure. Jamie's going to co-chair the implementation committee with me. Thank you, Jamie. So both those committees are getting started. We have we received from you all the list of commissioners. So an email will go out probably in the next couple of weeks for the leadership committee, and what the next steps are, and then some background information there. For 1038, before I get into the settlement agreement, we're working on a contract amendment with our folks who do the fiscal analysis work for the PRTF actuarial analysis. So we're working on an amendment there to that contract. We are also, sorry, I think what else on 1038. There's that. Oh, and we have some funding for 1038 that started this year for standardized assessment and intensive care coordination, but it really lifts the funding increases next year. I'll have more to discuss in our January meeting, just being respectful of the JBC process, and how that works. But we are making sure that some of that we have the workforce available to actually do high fidelity RAP and standardized assessment as part of the solution, and not just paying for services when there's no workforce to do it. So just know that we are mindful of the workforce issue. So we are going to propose some solutions to that, and I'll come back to this group when we can do that. We have some funding this year for standards assessment and intensive care coordination. It's not really being utilized yet. So I'm working with my team to make a list of things it has to be service related to Medicaid, and it has to be a Medicaid member. What are the sort of EPSDT exceptions we need for the extended stay patients or extended stay members in order to help there for this fiscal year? Again, that's also TBD. That's 1038. On the settlement agreement, Jamie.
Yeah, this is more settlement agreement, I think, but I'm just going to throw it out there. If there's not, I know that I'm channeling your presentation. In the settlement agreement, there's going to be an opportunity to create like a resource center, or lack of a better term.
Workforce capacity center.
Okay, so that's where like high fidelity RAP will live, and all of the programs. Until there's the ability to get that stood up, or as widely, if there's a workforce shortage, will the current high fidelity RAP programs remain intact? Or like, would we still be able to administer the high fidelity wrap programs?
Two different,
Until-
yeah,
Okay, all right, thank you.
two different questions, two different things there, really. So, yes and yes. There's a couple things going on. We are working closely with the BHA in there, and we want to do the same process with them. Go through the same process. We don't want multiple high fidelity wrap processes or trainings. The 1038 funding, I told you I'll come back in January to talk about, has a lot to do with that. So I'll come back in January and talk about that, about workforce. We had a conversation with BHA last week on how do we fund. Well, I'll put it this way. There's gonna be multiple phases to this, the rollout of the settlement agreement. The first phase is gonna be small, so we're not gonna pull services away from other kids, just because we're doing phase one. By the time you get to the end phase where we're serving all kids, we want to have one system, right? And one set of providers there. I think that's important. But in the immediate future, there's not going to be any shifts to the current. We're just adding, we're not taking away in the immediate future. If that's a better way to put it. As far as settlement agreement is concerned, we're there's a lot going on. The report is still due in February. We still need to schedule and finish our feedback report based on all the meetings we had. I have a staff member going through all the recordings of all those meetings and making sure we didn't, and pulling notes, and we'll finish that report. It's halfway done. Phase one for next year, starting July 1st, 2025, that funding is secured. We know where we're getting it from. We know what it'll look like, including adjustments to rates for the phase one population. I will say tentatively, we are looking at phase one, and we still have to meet with the plaintiffs. So please keep that in mind that this is very tentative. We're likely, given our budget situation, just going to focus on those stepping down from residential and inpatient. No, sorry, from residential, from PRTF and QRTP as a set of services, being the assessment, the high fidelity wrap, and the MST or FFT for every kid stepping down out of residential. That's our goal. That's about what we also are going to do, which is less public, and we're going to keep it less public, is also make that service available for extended stay patients and members. What we don't want to do is put that out there in the sphere and people funneling kids to the ED to get services. Like, that's what we don't want to do. So those are the two groups we're looking at. The group for the extended stay, Medicaid members for the extended stay, and Medicaid members stepping down PRTF, QRTP, it's close to 600 kids. And that is our target for starting next year. For 3 services, for the full assessment, for high fidelity wrap, and for MST at a monthly rate, and FFT at a monthly rate, which would be new. We're calling it enhanced MST and enhanced FFT. Questions?
When you say next year, are you talking like January of 25 or the following?
Fiscal year, July 1st, 2025. Now, the services are not going to be ready to go July 1st. We recognize that with the workforce shortage, but our workforce training will be ready to go. So we are hoping that it is up and running January 1st, 2025. Will be up. No, sorry, January 1st, 2026. That will be fully running and all services available for those kids. This whole thing is like moving by the hour. So it is constantly like trying to keep the train moving. So
It sounds like it. And that was a lot of great information. I think we're all just
yeah, I'll have a lot more to talk about in January for the JBCs and stuff. So
That was super helpful, Robert. Just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, appreciate all the updates, Robert. Similar to the conversation we just had around the implementation plan with the BHA, is there like a work plan or what, maybe once you have more definitive next steps in January and when you meet with the plaintiffs again, like just
Yeah, the implementation plan is the work plan.
your
uh,
the BHA implementation plan is the work plan?
Oh, no. Well, I thought you meant for us, HICPUF.
No, for you. I was just saying, like, having some line of sight into like status of certain projects through 1038, and then the other layer of the settlement. Is there anything that's publicly available or? And it sounds like it's very fluid, and so maybe it takes getting some of these things more definitively figured out.
It is fluid, and the reason why 1038 is a little fluid, we do have a like sort of a vague work plan, is because 1038 really overlaps with the settlement agreement, and we're really trying to make that fit and use the 1038 funds to help us get started with the settlement agreement. So that's why it's a little, it's not as public as some of our other stuff, but yeah.
Do you have, I feel like we've talked about this before, 'cause it's hard to keep track of, you know, it's part of the settlement agreement, but it's covered for in 1038, like almost like a Venn diagram of what fits all three and what is just one of the initiatives.
Yeah, I can bring that back. In my PowerPoint slide, I have the 7 components of our proposed system of care, and in green is highlighted those that are from 1038. So, which is basically just a standardized assessment and high fidelity wrap. That's the only 2 things in 1038 that are for the settlement agreement. Most of 1038 was residential for CDHS stuff.
And then is much of the children and youth implementation plan also related to the settlement agreement, or are those
Well,
largely complements?
Yeah, how that works is Matt takes stuff from takes our stuff and puts it into the bigger plan. So they take the stuff from our work we're doing and they track it. So it's connected in that sense. Our work is reflected in their plan.
Other,
Like I said, this thing shifts by the day. So
the implementation team and the leadership team are going to be busy then, huh?
yeah, they will, because lots gonna happen in between meetings. So it will slow down once we get a final plan for February.
Any other questions for Robert?
I think for this group, I just wanted to flag 2 items that CHSDA included at our October executive committee meeting about a month ago. And most of this is HICPUF related. So the first one is the actual HICPUF planning to move child welfare residential services under the behavioral health capitation through the raise. We had a really long discussion with John Lockinen last month about all the questions counties have around this change. I will just say for this group, the biggest underlying concern with the change is that if the policy isn't implemented to take care of a certain things, counties are worried that this is going to make the high acuity crisis worse. So we're just very interested in close coordination and follow-up on that particular policy change. I know Robert John had mentioned HICPUF is working on an FAQ since there were so many questions, and HICPUF is still meeting with other stakeholders. I believe they're just starting to meet with providers, residential providers on it, but I wanted to let this group know that it's been a big topic of conversation with the counties and something we want to track really closely over the next couple of months. Are you just,
No, I was gonna say absolutely, because it has potential budget impact for you all.
Mhm.
We have to do this shift from a legal advice wise. How do I say this without getting our department in trouble about previous behavior? But I'll say this: the feds require, whether it's fee for service or it's through the capitation, that we do utilization management. And one thing that happens sometimes when kids are in residential and they get to a point that they're no longer, as you all know, no longer need residential, is they don't necessarily have a place to go. Well, somebody has to pay that provider the time that they're staying in their facility, and they have no place to go. The feds do not permit us to pay for non-medically necessary days. However, we are looking at transition period. So that is one thing we are looking at, is how long we could pay for a transition period. But this is significant for counties. If you should pay attention to this, because it does have potential budgetary implications for county kids. If the medical necessity is over and then the transition period's over, the HIPAA will not be paying for the residential stay. That's the way to sum it up. So, yeah.
I think that that's a really good summation. That's probably one of the biggest concerns. And Robert, you said HICPUF's looking at a transition period of time, and that's one of the, I guess, the supporting implementation decisions that HICPUF does have the ability to change or like make a determination you guys are going a certain direction. And that's the part we're hoping we can continue having conversations with you all about it as you're working on it, not after it's finalized, because it has such huge implications potentially. Some of these things have really big implications, but
Yeah, so John is the person to work with on that. He's the right person. I will say that will be heavily dictated by the feds. They'll tell us what they think is a reasonable transition time. I do believe that they don't think that 1 day is reasonable, but over 30 days, they might not think is reasonable either. So we'll have to keep working and having that conversation with the feds as well, as far as, because they have to approve that paying for a transition. So they'll have to approve that as well.
and
Sorry,
go ahead.
I should have raised my hand. I know John's the right person to talk to about this, but I think we're concerned about the conversations not maybe happening as quickly as we feel like they should be. So I'm just throwing it out to this group that we are concerned about this as counties, and we are trying to escalate these conversations, and we can't delay. So if you ever talk to John, and we'll, bring it up to him as well again, but we really need to like get on the ball with this work.
Yeah, if it's something on our end and you need something from John on our end, and you're worried about that, just email John. If you feel like you can't get that, then email John, Melissa, and myself, and from there. So.
And the second item I just wanted to flag for the group that was a part of CHSD's exec committee. Robert actually joined us for this one. It was related to the state-only Friday calls, but Robert, you're coming back to exec next week to put forward a draft policy around some updates for Creative Solutions and sharing out some updates regarding the plan for moving towards the state tiered staffing response. Did I get all of that right? That's the
Correct.
next step. Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure everyone had that, those updates as well.
What's the tiered, what is?
We call it tiered solutions for now. Basically, we want to we hired 2 staff members, a care coordinator and a utilization manager that report to Stacy, who reports to me now. And we're revamping Creative Solutions after hearing some feedback on the process, creating some standardization policies, forms, so get to make those meetings get more out of those meetings. We are also creating a process by which when things are getting concerning, they elevate up the organizations. So when for now we'll just say Creative Solutions, but the tier 1 is Creative Solutions, and we're hoping it gets resolved at that level. If let's say an ED, if a kid's in an ED and they're extended in the ED after 7 days, let's say, or I don't know what the numbers are in my head, it's maybe 3 days, I don't know. It comes to my level, it comes to Minna's level. And then if it's now 10 days, then it goes up to the executive directors of the office, of the departments. So it's the way to keep everybody in the loop. It's sort of what I'm proposing, how we elevate things. I'm not sure everybody's fully aware the extent of some of the challenges, so.
It's really helpful. Is that what you previewed for us maybe last year, Robert, as a draft around?
Yeah,
Okay.
and now that I have staff, we can move on.
And will it be binding in the sense that like an entity will expect to hear from HCPF or whatever, like depending on whatever tier it is, that you know, that there's a response factor in that timeline? That's what I remember, is that there were really prescriptive times, which I think really helps everybody kind of align around that. Just curious what the expectation is for those who are managing that patient.
It's going to be it really is for our utilization manager to elevate when things are not meeting the timelines. We do hope, though, that after we get our settlement agreement up and running, that the need for Creative Solutions starts to evaporate, and when we have high fidelity wrap around available statewide and frequent, because that really is the answer, not Creative Solutions. So we're hoping when we get there, the need for Creative Solutions dissipates.
Agreed. Awesome.
Other questions for Robert? Otherwise, Heather, Matt is back if you wanted to ask your previous question.
Thank you. Yes. And also this is related as well for OCYF for Debbie. So under House Bill 22-1283, that was the bill that added a lot of funding for BHA to contract with some residential providers specifically around substance use disorder. That took a long time to get off the ground, a lot due to the ongoing workforce challenges like we have for all of the high acuity stuff. Denver Health opened a few beds first, and then if you guys remember, Jefferson Center finally opened 5 beds a few months ago, but it took like 2 years to get those beds open. I heard the very sad news that a child recently died at Jefferson Center and the program is on hold. I was wondering, one, if BHA has updates about any of that, and secondly, the broader question here is, where are we as a system in really trying to have a strategy around expanding the capacity of SUD treatment beds for youth? Because it feels like we only really get movement with 1 or 2 beds every couple of years, but I wasn't sure if there was still momentum behind that effort, or if because Denver Health and Jefferson Center opened a few beds, that's where the strategy kind of stopped.
I can kick it off a little bit there, Heather. And so as far as progress or where we are currently, right? We're clearly in the investigation aspect of for the kiddo in Jeff Hills or Jefferson Center. So so we're there, and there's not much more I can say there. Those two entities were never meant to be the end all be all, right? The Denver Health and Jefferson Center. It's what we had, and it took a lot of work to get them up and running, but that was not ever looked at as like, once we have those, then we fix the problem, right? It is high level ASAM levels of care, which has been really hard. It's just hard to staff has been one of the biggest pieces. So it's less about the dollars to pay for the programming, but it's how do I get the right staff? There's a lot of work there. We've met with Kelly and myself, numerous community folks on the same topic, and we have raised it to our commissioner level also to make sure that like this need continues to percolate up, knowing we don't have as many placement options for 3.5 3.7 as we would like to have, right? I mean, these are kids actively detoxing, right? Or as soon as they're done actively detoxing, right, they still need med management. So this isn't even just normal SUD level of care that can be addressed with just psychotherapy or therapeutic intervention, but it also needs that medical piece. So I think where we are right now too is a little bit in a holding pattern, and then going forward, going back to the drawing board and what we can do. So it's kind of a twofold piece, right? We want to see what happens here and where we are, and if we need to look at new avenues or something else that we haven't looked at in the past. So that's a high level where we are. And I don't want to speak for Debbie, but that's where BHA is.
Thanks, Matt. And Debbie, so Division of Child Welfare has a substance use disorder work group, but they have been focusing for a long time on substance exposed newborns, just because of capacity and resource issues. We had hoped that the group would shift to the youth substance use disorder piece of things way earlier this year, several months ago, but it's oftentimes I think the months just keep going by, and this issue has been around for so long, but we haven't for a while had, I guess, moved past the on hold piece. So that's really the plea there is, if you have any more updates that you can share about how that will move forward and when. I think counties are really interested in having more momentum and trying to work on that part of the continuum soon.
Sure, thanks, Heather. I don't have any updates right now, but I will definitely follow up and then get back with this group, or get back with you so you can share that information out. Were you looking for me for something else, Heather?
No, that would be helpful, Debbie. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay, we've got about 15 minutes left. Ellen, if it's okay, I just want to very quickly elevate the charter piece and kind of some next steps, and then maybe we can get to your updates about the IDD population. Well, first and foremost, I guess we've kind of kicked the can a couple times on the charter. I think everyone's comments and feedback, I've kept the comments just so we can keep track of them. But any outstanding concerns with that, otherwise maybe we can consider that adopted and for groups that don't have their logo on there, we can get that incorporated.
Just for folks, I know BHA, we can look at adopting it and those things, but we talked with our folks, our communications people, and we will not be sharing our logo on this. So just so you know.
Okay.
Can you put the charter in the chat again? I'm sorry, or is it in the?
Oh, it's linked in the agenda, but I've got it here. Handy. And then just kind of broadly on next steps, for anyone who hasn't heard, I am expecting a little one in January. So going to be taking a little bit of a leave. And figuring out kind of the particulars of that. We have a contract lobbyist who's going to take over kind of my lobbying role for the session. But as far as this group, I can't commit CCI to being able to regularly hold this meeting, but certainly if there are more pertinent updates, can kind of do some more sporadic meetings perhaps, just not kind of this regularly standing meeting. But if there's any other groups who are interested in being kind of the host and the convener to keep the updates going, it certainly feels like that is still warranted. But if anyone wants to volunteer, or a few groups want to volunteer, and we can maybe come up with some sort of schedule or cadence. I just put that question and offer out to anyone who might be willing or able to kind of think about. And I'm due in January, so I would certainly expect a December meeting. I guess I should look at the January calendar. The first Friday is the 3rd. So maybe we can take a pulse at the November meeting to see if we want to meet on the 3rd or delay it, just given the holidays and everything. So just some kind of forward-looking administrative next steps for everyone to ponder over. And thanks everyone for your congratulations. Okay. Ellen, so I know Children's Hospital, and you've shared this previously, has been doing some work for the IDD population. So I just leave the floor over to you. You wanted to give an update.
Yeah, maybe it kind of rolls into this similar conversation around meeting structure and a lot of the same stakeholders, actually. Back in about 6 weeks ago, like late September, we hosted a meeting around care for kids with intellectual and developmental disabilities who often really meet the criteria of high acuity. I don't think I see Robert on anymore. So we had some state agencies participate and provide updates around strategies that Colorado Medicaid's doing around the CHIRP expansion, things like that. We did a survey after the meeting. I think there was a lot of great county participation and discussion around, just the need for communication. There's often so many stakeholders involved in a lot of these complex cases. In the IDD population specifically, we were trying to get a pulse of like what would be helpful to keep the conversation going, since at Children's we are managing this on a daily basis, just like many of you are. And it seems that folks want to meet quarterly and talk about advocacy, policy, like system changes, and also just have an opportunity for communication. I wanted to take the temperature of this group, since it is a lot of the same issues, though a little bit more focused on neurodivergent patient populations. And I don't know from a state agency perspective if the right folks are here at the table or other stakeholders. I fear we would miss, if we put that topic in this conversation, we probably miss groups like CCBs that are not at this table. Direct service advocates like the ARC and CCDC and others that really do have a big role in advocacy and policy work. So just checking in if anybody wants to provide any other commentary on if you attended that meeting, how we could potentially merge or continue to divert, just kind of open the floor for any feedback. Yeah, Director Ulrich.
Thank you. Yeah, I did attend the meeting and I thought it was great. We're also the CMA here in Weld County, so I'm very interested in having those additional discussions. I don't know what merging looks like, or, you know, what the quarterly cadence looks like, but Weld County's on board. Whatever that looks like, we will be there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Adams is interested as well. Pueblo, okay. We felt like Megan Cook, who tries to join this meeting, she's our director of social work and our system lead for extended stay patients. We were kind of brainstorming, maybe piloting like a quarterly form. We just don't want to create more meetings that people feel are ineffective or duplicative. So maybe hosting another meeting in like the new year in January to just poll the group and get feedback for an agenda. If you're CHSDA in particular, would love for you all to just, you know, invite your membership. Becky, for you to invite your membership, and see what the issues of the day kind of are for folks to talk through. And then if folks feel it's duplicative, we can definitely end it at any time, but maybe that'll be our goal for getting the group back together in January. I do want to support Katie in any way, the Tackling Barriers continuing to meet, because it's a small group and maybe different types of discussion, but that'll be our plan moving forward. It's great to see the interest on that topic. It might be worth, if this group is going to be specific and separate, getting an update from our state partners on some of the neuropsychiatric services that they're building out at Fort Logan. You know, just continuing to think about ways that it integrates with the Tackling Barriers group too, to the extent it remains separate.
Thanks, Ellen. And I can share the chat with you so you can capture these counties and folks who are interested and being part of that. And depending on the timing, if I'm still here beginning to mid-January, I'm happy to just share the details out with the Tackling Barriers group too.
Great, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And thank you, Heather, for your partnership in a lot of that work.
Okay, that was quicker and easier than I thought, but Ellen, I might steal your idea of a survey and kind of use that for moving forward with this group as well. So all of the idea sharing on all of the fronts today. I love it.
You can literally repurpose my Google form. I will screenshot it and send it to you, and you can use it.
I love it. Any other last questions, comments, concerns, feedback from this group? It sounds like there are some updates we can look forward to in December and January. But if you have agenda topics that just came to mind as we were talking, happy to take those. But also happy to give you 7 minutes back.
Katie, can we just put the youth residential substance abuse treatment issue on the next agenda, please? I'm just concerned there are no open beds anywhere right now, and there's no time frame for Jefferson Center reopening.
I was on mute. Yes, happy to. Is an update probably from Debbie and the OCYF team and their efforts the best to speak to that? Is OCYF in charge of the 1283?
BHA.
It is BHA? Okay.
Mhm.
I was trying to
Thank
raise
you.
my hand, but I can't find it with this goofy Zoom layout. Sorry, that's us.
Okay. Matt, are you the best person, or do you have a colleague you can refer me to?
You can start with me and then
Okay.
we can, yeah.
Great. Well, if there is nothing further, I know I'm going to skip off and see if the governor's budget has been posted yet.
The
It
letter,
has. Yes.
the transmittal letter has.
Yes.
Good
Amazing.
luck.
Thank you so much. I hope everyone has a great
Thanks.
weekend.
Bye. Thank you, Katie.
Bye.
Thanks.